Hey, it's Monica Neubauer, the Maverick Motivator, here with number 4 in my video series for home buyers. And we started out talking about just the very beginning, hiring the professionals you need. We talked about different kinds of financing that's available and some detailed things about what you need as you're preparing to search for your home. All right, in this fourth video, what I want to talk about are the costs involved with buying your home. There are a number of them, and I want you to be prepared that it's more money than you think. If you have been a renter for a long time, then you've just paid your rent and they've taken care of all the repairs, the taxes, the insurance. All you've had to do is pay your utilities. So converting over to a home buyer, there's going to be a group of costs that go with the buying of the house, and then there's going to be more money that it's going to cost you to own a house. Now, if all of this makes you go, oh no, home ownership is still the best way to build long-term wealth in America, and having your own home that you can decorate however you want and live in is fantastic. So it's the good decision to buy a home for most people. Not for everybody. There's some people whose lifestyles, it's just really not the best, but for most people, it is a great investment. And I'll give you a sneak peek. My next video is going to be, what if you buy something and you need to move? What are your investment opportunities with it later on? So we'll get to that as well. But I want to talk right now about what it's going to cost you. Now, when you are buying a house, we've discussed in our series, there is the down payment. And the down payment generally is, with a few exceptions, you want to count on having 3.5% as a minimum, or 5% really would be a good number to have for your down payment. Okay? So if you're looking at housing prices have gotten high, and I don't know what's normal in your market, but if you're looking at a $300,000 house, then 5% is going to be a $15,000 down payment. Okay? Now, that's just the down payment. You've heard me talk in the videos about closing costs. Now, what's all in the closing costs? Well, the lender's fees are there, and they can be anywhere from like $1,000 to then they require points. And points are, if you say 1 point, that's 1% of the loan amount. So, in this situation, if you put $15,000 down, that's a $285,000 loan. 1 point would be $2,850 in closing costs. Now, not every lender has points. I prefer to not pay points, but that may cause me to have a little higher interest rate. So you kind of need to weigh all of these things. Again, that's why we talked about that with them. So, but it's the lender's fees, it's prepaid costs, which are your homeowner's insurance for the first year. And then when you have a loan, you'll be building up escrow. So that's going to be your taxes and insurance that you are paying towards next year. You'll need to be paying in advance so that when the mortgage company, and they will pay your taxes and your insurance for you, that's the way they protect their loan. They collect that money from you and put it in an escrow account. Okay? So they're going to pre-pad that a little bit at closing, maybe 4 months worth of taxes and insurance. So that is a prepaid cost. You also are going to have some state taxes from the state you live in. In Tennessee, because we don't have an income tax, it's a little bit of a higher tax that needs to be paid by the buyer, but it's still nothing like some states that just have really high taxes at closing. There also is this thing called title insurance. Now, who pays for title insurance? Well, first, let's briefly explain what it is, because it's generally expensive and it makes people go, oh, really? I have to pay that? Well, and it insures your title. And what that means is that your title, title for your car, your ownership documents have passed through a lot of hands to get to where they are. And sometimes there can be weird claims on your title. And title insurance protects you from those weird claims. That's all I'm going to tell you right now. You can ask your title company more about that. It actually is much more complicated than that, but that's basically what it is for, and you have to pay it. And I will say, though, that the title insurance kind of helps subsidize the closing company's costs, because their fee to close is generally $450 to $600. So part of the title insurance is also a little bit of the subsidy for what they need to get to close your loan. All right, so let's see. Gosh, there could be other things. There could be HOA costs. Sometimes there's HOA transfer fees. HOA is Homeowners Association. So there are other things that may come into play. Maybe there were some repairs or something like that. Maybe there's a funding fee. So there are a number of things that will go there, and they generally total 2 to 4% of the purchase price of the home by the time it's all added in there. And when you first start talking with the lender, it can be a little challenging to get those numbers, so you need to press them. And also talk to your real estate agent because they can help you with some of them as well for your local market. Okay, so you got down payment, you've got closing costs. So if you're paying all of those, you're going to need 6 to 10%, basically 6 to 9% or something like that of the cost of the home to buy it. As I mentioned, sometimes the seller will pay closing costs, so that could be a factor. And sometimes you just need a little help with the closing costs. You may only need $2,000 or $3,000 help. You may not need, 2% or something. So that's a factor. All right. You want to understand how your vendors are getting paid. And I mean, let's start with your real estate agent. Largely, most of the time, they're getting paid at closing. And as the market stands right now, oftentimes buyers are getting paid, quite frankly, by the listing agent who negotiated a commission with the seller, and they're offering the buyer's agent they're going to share their commission and give that money to the buyer's agent for bringing a buyer. Now that happens in a lot of places. It doesn't happen everywhere. Some places don't practice buyer's agency as much, and a lot of buyers are still working with the listing agent. You can pay a buyer's agent out of your pocket. You can hire them to help you to buy a house. So they don't have to be paid through the other commission, though that is handy. Then what you're paying them essentially is financed into the property. But you need to understand how they're getting paid. The lender also gets paid at closing. So neither one of them get paid until you have a closing transaction. Now, there may be some money due up front. In particular, the appraisal is due up front to a lender. And if you owe them anything up front, that's been something they may charge a retainer fee. And that may be non-refundable or something. So you can ask them about that. Other vendors you're going to be using in the transaction is you have the inspection. Now, who's paying the inspection? You are. The buyer pays for the inspection. That's going to be generally anywhere from $400 to $1,000, depending on the number of inspections you get. There often is an insect inspection report. There might be a radon inspection report. Not a lot of people do lead-based paint, but you could have a lead-based paint inspection. You probably should just take it for granted if you're buying a really old house. There's a good chance there's lead-based paint in it. And then your regular inspector who will do your home inspection. So you're going to be paying them, writing them a check. So you want to be prepared for that. We talked about the appraiser. There may be, if you need a structural engineer, there may be other inspectors that you need to pay, and you just need to be prepared for that, okay? And a termite or wood-destroying insect report, those generally run $45 to $75, and they'll give you a letter. You could talk about that more with your agent. Okay, so that's a basic overline of the costs that need to be paid at closing, okay? And during the process of you looking for a home. Now, what's going to happen after closing? So I told you we had all these expenses during closing. What happens after closing? And what you're going to have after closing depends on the condition you bought the house in, okay? If it needs a lot of work, you're going to want to have a nest egg to do the repairs. Is the roof really old? Is the HVAC or the furnace really old? Are the appliances old? The older a house is, the more likely you're probably going to want a home warranty if your house is older. It's a really good idea to get a home warranty, especially if your house is older. If it's brand new, well, you're still going to need blinds and landscaping. So you're going to need money after you move into the house. And home ownership does cost money. Things break, and you're going to want to have an affordable plumber on hand. The big companies charge a lot. You can find some small, more independent people. Right now, the exterior of my house is getting painted, and I have a rental property that I had to replace the HVAC unit on. That's the heating and cooling unit. So there are expenses that come with home ownership. So make sure you have a nest egg there, or maybe you have someone in your family who's handy and can help you with things, at least for the first couple years while you build up your resources. So just remember that home ownership is not free. So thanks for joining me. I hope you listen to the rest in the series. And the next one coming up is going to be on turning your property into an investment property. We'll talk a little bit about short-term with Airbnb or VRBO, and then a little bit more about long-term investments as well. MonicaNeubauer.com. See you later.